I've tried my best to put all of Kendrick Lamar's songs, mainly from his albums, into some sort of ranking, completely biased and 100% based on my personal feelings. There are a few exceptions to this list. I've excluded the Heart series of songs. I've excluded a few interludes, including Blood, the Rich and Savior interludes from Mr. Morale, and I've also excluded Untitled, Unmastered as well. But I have included the available diss tracks on DSPs. So in total, we have 75 tracks to run through. Right at the bottom of the list has been my least favorite Kendrick song forever, basically. That's Tammy's song Her Evils from Section 80. The instrumental and Kendrick's delivery for me just haven't aged amazingly well. Chapter 10 is next, an interlude, light airy kind of song. No Makeup is well known within Kendrick fan circles as one of his weakest songs. For me, it's the hook that doesn't really do much. Purple Hearts is a song I wish I liked more because Summer Walker is very talented and Ghostface Killah is a GOAT, but there's just something off to me about it. And I must stress that I don't hate any of these songs. Most of these songs, even if they might be ranked like 66 or 67, are songs I probably love more than most. Compton with Dr. Dre is the victory lap ending to the story of Good Kid, Mad City. I do really enjoy it. It's not one of the strongest of Good Kid, Mad City, but it's always nice to hear Dr. Dre over instrumentals like this. It's not a controversial opinion to say God from Damn is my least favorite from that album, although I do enjoy its hook. Love with Zakari, also from Damn, is an extremely sweet song, but it's not one of Kendrick's deeper cuts, although I do appreciate how spacious and flat out sentimental the song is. Keisha's song, which is kind of like a Brenda's Baby homage, is next. And I think the writing is incredible, and I think the instrumental is pretty decent too, but again, with a couple of songs on Section 80, my issue is with the singing on the hook. Absol's outro to me is like a window to the future of what would come on To Pimp a Butterfly a few years later with the jazz elements. Ya from Damn is like a slow, woozy, trip-hop kind of song. I think it's pretty cool, but I don't think it's as integral to the story of Damn as other surrounding songs on the album. Crown is next, and I will say from this point on, I basically love all of these songs. I love the pianos that are present all over Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, but particularly on here. Kendrick does what he's done a few times with his higher register, high-pitched singing voice. I do love in particular as well how eerie and dystopian some of the lyrics feel. Chapter 6 from Section 80, a song or interlude really that I love for its instrumental, how catchy it is, how woozy it is as well. The melody is something that's been stuck in my head for basically half my life at this point. Loyalty with Rihanna, one of Kendrick's more pop-leaning songs. I love the 24K Bruno Mars sample that's been reversed for this beat by DJ Dahi, I believe. And getting a Rihanna feature or getting her to do any music of any sort since 2016 is an achievement in of itself. I'm surprised Die Hard isn't as big of a song as it actually is. I know it hit the top 10 in the charts, but it has all the makings and catchiness and pop radio friendly appeal to be one of Kendrick's biggest ever hits. And I love that he's still able to fold in those intimate therapeutic themes of Mr. Morale into an accessible song like this. Up next, I've got 3 songs in a row from Section 80, starting with the intro track, Fuck Your Ethnicity. Our first real introduction to Kendrick's approach to concept storytelling, not only just over the course of a song, but over the entirety of an album. Cushion Corinthians with an amazing feature from BJ the Chicago Kid as well. Another example of Kendrick using his religious foundation to tell wider stories. And although I did previously say that some of the singing features on Section 80 I think date it slightly, I think this is not one of those. High Power, which is produced by none other than J. Cole, is one of Kendrick's like first big splashes. Some of the bars just stick out to me to this day, particularly I got my finger on the motherfucking pistol aiming it at a pig, Charlotte's Web is gonna miss you. Like, to write that young I think is genius. But in all seriousness, you know, it has Kendrick attempting and I think doing quite well to deal with a whole load of weighty prescient issues. Poetic Justice, one of the singles from Good Kid, Mad City with a Drake feature, of course. I think the Janet Jackson sample is amazing. It's never been one of my favorite songs from Good Kid, Mad City, but I think it's a nice welcome break from some of the heavier themes of the album. And it's another display of Kendrick's versatility as well, with a song like this being so accessible, surrounded by other really, really heavy topic songs. Hold Up is next. I love the horns. I love the intro to the song. Like, that shit is fucking hilarious. After such a serious intro with Fuck Your Ethnicity, Kendrick is able to show moments of levity and his sense of humor. But that's still laced in with some really heavy themes on Hold Up. Rich Spirit is a song in hindsight that feels prophetic given the events of 2024 with Kendrick's beef with Drake. Stop Playing With Me Before I Turn You Into a Song feels like that has just 100% come true now. But aside from its future relevance, the song itself I think is very, very strong. And I do think how integral it is to the first half of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is quite underrated. It's really catchy, it's smooth, it's watery, but most importantly, it's thematically relevant like every song on the album. Mr. Morale with Tana Leone, produced by Pharrell. I love how insane this song is, the high energy, and I think it's needed as well because this song comes directly after Auntie Diaries, which is one of the heaviest moments on the album. It's brooding, it's dark, it's futuristic, but it feels organic at the same time. Blow My High from Section 80, so underrated. One of my earliest memories of ever hearing a Kendrick Lamar solo song. The Aaliyah sample goes crazy. Kendrick's voice actually sounds pretty good as well with his singing. Ronald Reagan Era, another underrated song from Section 80, so aggressive and in your face. And whilst, again, it sounds like a running theme, I'm not the biggest fan of the singing on the opening section of the song. The rest of the song more than makes up for it. Real is a song that's grown on me more and more over the years. When I first heard Good Kid, Mad City, I was adamant that this was my least favorite track and that it was weak. But the older I've gotten and the more I've stuck with this song, the more I've grown to appreciate it. It feels like the real, no quote intended, real end of the album before you get to Compton. And whilst it might run on for just a bit too long and that's why it's not higher on this list, I still really, really enjoy this song. Next one might be a bit controversial because it's one of Kendrick Lamar's signature songs really, and that's Swimming Pools. I love Swimming Pools. I love all of these songs on here. But the reason it's not higher up is because I do think it's ever so slightly dated, and that's not a knack against it, but I just think that it is. But conceptually, what it's doing in the narrative of Good Kid, Mad City, especially coming right before another really integral song and doing the balancing act of sounding like a turn-up party song when in reality it's about addiction and insecurities, I think is amazing still. Rigor Mortis is next, ridiculous display of Kendrick Lamar's technical rapping ability. Silent Hill is next, and I'm very conflicted about the fact that Kodak Black is on here, considering the nature of the lyrics on Mr. Morale as well and who Kodak Black is and what he's done. Doesn't really sit the best with me, but nonetheless I can't deny that Silent Hill goes fucking crazy. The Kodak Black verse is very strong. Pride, and I know a lot of people love this song a lot more than I do, and I can understand why, because I think it's amazing. One of the most important songs on Damn thematically. The only reason I don't think this song is higher up is because I think a lot of the other songs on Damn for me are more tight conceptually, the way they're written, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is still an amazing song. From To Pimp a Butterfly, the first single from To Pimp a Butterfly, although a different version as a live version, or live in quotation marks, is included on the album. Isley Brothers sample goes crazy, and the way the song melts away and Kendrick addresses the crowd with a spoken word bit is one of the conceptual highlights of the album. Complexion with Rhapsody, another song that grew on me a lot over the years. Kendrick's tale of forbidden slave love is more crazy conceptual shit that only really Kendrick can pull off. Backseat Freestyle, a childhood banger for me. I remember being 15, 16, playing this at every fucking house party I went to. It still goes crazy. The Hit Boy beat is insane. Mirror is the song that ends Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and I think it's a fitting closer, not just for the album, but for that entire era of Kendrick's career and life. Good Kid, one of the best examples of Kendrick's pure storytelling ability. Humble is one of Kendrick Lamar's biggest ever songs, and it's very easy to see why. It's so catchy, it's super simple as well, but that doesn't mean that Kendrick skimps on the bars. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe can divide people because of Kendrick's high-pitched singing. I love it. I think it's hilarious as well. I think it's kind of tongue-in-cheek on this track. The sample is amazing. Anna Wise kills it. I know there's also the version with Jay-Z I'm not including the deluxe songs on here, but there is the version of Jay-Z, which I must acknowledge is also amazing. Kendrick's verses on there may go even crazier. Worldwide Steppers is up there with the most confounding and disturbing moments I've had listening to a Kendrick Lamar song for the first time. The beat is like discombobulating, it's confusing at first as well. Kendrick's rapping style is scattered and almost like spoken word, but once you have it within the totality of the album, it makes a lot more sense. On first listen, hearing Kendrick talk about his infidelity so bluntly it is shocking. It's a shocking moment. But I think that this is one of the most daring moments in Kendrick's career. Count Me Out is next, again from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Some people love this a lot more. I still really enjoy the song. I understand how integral it is, considering where it's placed in the album as well. The music video, I think, enhances the song for me. I think I grew to appreciate it even more once I saw the visuals. How Much a Dollar Cost is a cult favorite. It's legendary in the pantheon of Kendrick Lamar songs. The story of Kendrick meeting this person in South Africa, told in a parable form, is, amazing. It's amazing. I might get some slack for placing For Sale interlude above How Much a Dollar Costs, but it's just a matter of personal taste. I love Kendrick's strange inflections, continuing the Lucy Lucifer law of money and celebrity angle on here. XXX with U2 from Damn. I will admit that I do prefer the first half of the song to the second half, just for how cold-blooded and direct and to the point it is as well. But I understand that that pivot in the middle is necessary considering the story Kendrick's trying to tell, and for that I have to appreciate it. We Cry Together is hardly a song. It's hardly a song. I'm pretty sure Kendrick Lamar wrote Taylor Page's part as well. The amount of self-reflection and honesty with yourself to write something that scathing. I know it's conceptual and heightened reality, but nonetheless, the Alchemist instrumental goes crazy. You can never go wrong with an Alchemist beat, in my opinion. And just remembering the first time the world heard this song, it was like, what the fuck is going on? I compare it to Worldwide Steppers in the sense that I think this is a super daring song. You Ain't Gotta Lie grew on me more and more and more, and I already loved it on first listen. But now, nearly 10 years later, I think it's one of his most underrated songs. It's so funky, it's smooth, it's uplifting as well, and especially given, the context of the album as well, it's a moment that's really needed. N95, maybe the biggest hit from Mr. Morale. Kendrick switching up his flows and his inflections like he usually does on something like this that's a bit more zany and cartoony. Especially towards the end where he does, his high-pitched warbling voice where it sounds like he's about to cry. I love that shit. The Art of Peer Pressure from Good Kid, Mad City. Amazing. The first section is amazing. The second section is even better. It lures you into the false sense of security. It sounds like a fun summer's day and it just brings you right back down to earth. It's the detail that Kendrick puts in his stories that separate him for me. He goes really microscopic with, the kind of phones that he was holding at the time of this story taking place, what kind of shoes he was wearing, the smells. It really immerses you in his world. And the way the song ends with a sliding doors moment where he only escaped the police through pure chance. Speaking of genius storytelling, Father Time with Sampha, setting up some of the themes of generational trauma that become particularly important towards the end of the album. For me, aside from Kendrick Lamar telling us that, he went to therapy, just the nature of this song and the way it's written is the clearest indicator to me that that's what he went through. The whole idea of, linking it back to your childhood and recognizing that your parents are also people and not necessarily perfect and can make mistakes, and admitting that can be a very emotionally overwhelming thing, and the way Kendrick Lamar details that is amazing. Fear, the most important track to Damn's story, perhaps the 3-story tale about Kendrick as a 7-year-old, 17-year-old and 27-year-old. He loves doing these kind of triptych tales, and I love it when Kendrick starts with a motif for a song and runs with it. In the first verse, the whole I'll beat your ass if you do this, I'll beat your ass if you do that, and in the second verse with the I'll probably die if I do this, I'll probably die if I do that, and the way he's able to switch the entire tone of the track with just his voice and inflection, I think is a really underrated quality of his. Savior with Baby Keem and Sam Dew, insane song, ridiculous song that has the entire thesis of what Kendrick is trying to do in dismantling his own image on this track. Mortal Man, the 12-minute ridiculous conceptual shit that ends To Pimp a Butterfly, with the reveal that he's been talking to Tupac Shakur the entire time, never fails to blow my mind. And I always kind of get a lump in my throat and a bit teary-eyed at the end where he calls out to Tupac and no one's there. Shireen, aka Master Splinter's daughter, the opener to Good Kid, Mad City, the bass, how nocturnal the thing feels, and I mentioned it on the Heart of Peer Pressure, the detail he tells. Like, I feel like I'm in the car next to him when he's getting these texts and he's about to crash his car. ADHD, one of Kendrick Lamar's earlier really big hits, and I think the reason why this is one of my favorites from Section 80 is that it sounds timeless. It doesn't sound like 2011, it sounds just like Kendrick Lamar. Mad City, I know, is probably a lot higher on most people's lists because it's a certified classic and it's a banger and it never fails to go off. I must stress, I love this song and I think it's basically perfect. It being at this point in the list is not a knock against this, it's a compliment to all the songs above it. The iconic intro, the bars, the relentlessness, the switch, the MC8 feature. This is just the advert for the album to me. Poe Man's Dreams, my favorite song from Section 80, really embracing that whole witness angle that Kendrick has where he's like in the middle of all the shit that's going on but just an observer, not necessarily involved. I think Poe Man's Dreams communicates that perfectly. The next four are all from To Pimp a Butterfly. It's hard to separate To Pimp a Butterfly tracks because they are so integral to one another. The first one is Institutionalized with Bilal and Anna Wise and Snoop Dogg. The mini Snoop Dogg features are amazing, segueing into each verse. Kendrick once again using different voices depending on which character he's in, and on here he is distinctly two different characters. King Kunta, iconic bass line, amazing hook, so catchy. I remember when To Pimp a Butterfly was coming out and I think it was Pharrell saying that Kendrick should win an Oscar for this song, and it's understandable because it's so grandiose and theatrical. And speaking of theatrical, for Free Interlude, to this day one of the most batshit moments of Kendrick's entire career. Just full-on spoken word, free jazz poetry shit. Expressive, abstract as well, but communicating really, really strong themes. These Walls with Bilal, Anna Wise, and Thundercat. Of course, we all know that, you know, if you're playing this song in public, you might want to skip the first 30 seconds or so. But the self-reflection, of Kendrick being in this character, abusing their power and their status and their success for, nefarious purposes, for selfish purposes. The third verse particularly, where he links it back to the story of Sing About Me, is an amazing moment. Now, I did say I was including the diss tracks available on the DSPs, and this is the first one of the three, Meet the Grahams. Meet the Grahams still very fresh in my mind. It can't be higher up because it's not... I find it fun to listen to, but that might just be because I'm strange. But it's an objectively disturbing thing to listen to. It's dissonant, it's creepy, it's not something you want to play, but when you do, you just, your whole world is just that song for those 6 minutes. It's already gone down in rap lore history as one of the most brutal things that ever fucking happened. But again, it's not a song I'm playing every single day. Duckworth, mind-bending, time-bending story it tells and how it affects the narrative of Damn when you listen to it backwards is fucking insane, genius stuff. God level tier storytelling. The Ninth Wonder beats are amazing. The story of Kendrick's dad and Top meeting by pure fate and how it led to Kendrick's existence is already a thing of legend in my opinion. Hood Politics, the bass line at the start is amazing. The Sufjan Stevens sample as well is one that I love. And Kendrick is savage. Kendrick is aggressive, super hungry on this track as well. It feels prophetic now, when he closes the track saying he's the only one next to Snoop that can push the button and he'll open up a Pandora's box. And in 2024, that is most definitely true. Speaking of that box, the next two are both from that box. The first one being Not Like Us. Not Like Us, it's the song of the summer, it's the song of 2024. It's easily the biggest rap hit of this year. It's unlike anything we've ever heard from Kendrick Lamar before, and that's if you're just taking it aside from the context of the beef, just kind of stylistically. No matter how big this song gets or how quote-unquote overplayed it gets, I will never get over some of these bars. I don't think its sharpness can be dulled. No matter how many brain rot memes come out of it on TikTok. I debated with myself about which one I prefer, and it's the throw of a dice. It can be any given day it might flip, but the next one is Euphoria. It's virtuosic. What it did for the beef and setting up all the themes and feeling like Kendrick knew exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to go down, but also just the bars, just pure, but it's 6 minutes of straight bars that are somehow catchy. Like, I feel like I knew this song off by heart within a couple of days. DNA, one of the biggest bangers from Damn. The beat switch is amazing. The final section with the Rick James give me some ganja sample always gets me, especially coming after Blood, and with that We Hate the Popo, Wanna Kill Us in the Street for sure, Geraldo Rivera, whole skit at the start and how Kendrick used it. Alright, probably Kendrick's biggest hook ever in terms of its social impact and what it did, especially in that summer of 2015. I don't think its social impact can be understated. Everyone who's heard this song loves it, and for good reason. Pharrell instrumental is insane. The music video attached to it as well makes the song somehow better. Element is a song that I appreciate even more once I saw the music video. Completely expanded the scope for me. All of his different flows, he skates on the beat, and the tongue-in-cheek, like, you know, really confident but tongue-in-cheek, I'm gonna make it look sexy, always makes me laugh. And once again is another song in hindsight from 2024 that a lot of people theorize might have been a Drake shot. Anti-Diaries is a controversial song in Kendrick Lamar's discography, and for good reason, but it's one of the most powerful moments I've ever had listening to a Kendrick song for the first time. Of course, telling the story of two of his trans family members and how he was able to reflect on his own learned bigotry in his earlier life, and how he was able to grow past that and see his own contradictions as well, whilst not being perfect. Of course, a lot of people took issue with the fact that although Kendrick's intentions are very good, he still at the end of the day was using F slurs and dead naming and such. And I think those criticisms are valid. They are 100% valid, but I can't take away from just the pure emotional response I had to this song is unlike most songs I've ever heard, and it is a very, very important story to tell. But of course, you know, I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of trans creators who could tell you a whole lot more about those experiences, who are way more knowledgeable than myself. Another song from Mr. Morale, United in Grief. It sounds like the theater. Every time I hear it for the past 2 years, it just grows on me more and more and more and more and more. And the way it just sets Kendrick up, like every theme that is discussed on the album is at some point in United in Grief. You know, the whole infidelity angle, for example, where he says, first tour sex the pain away, I grieve different, and then later down the line you get songs like Worldwide Steppers. I love that. I love when I know everything about an album thematically, effectively from just its first song. The drums on the instrumental are insane, the pianos are beautiful, and that I grieve different line, just, it tells me so much about this album. The Blacker the Berry, another extremely impactful song. The Assassin I need Assassin to come back. I don't know where he is, but that hook, he was on, I think he was on Yeezus as well, and he did a song with Freddie Gibbs and Madlib as well. I need him to come back to do more hooks because he absolutely fucking killed it. The ferocity and justified anger in Kendrick's voice and delivery and bars as well is just so overwhelmingly powerful. Maybe in terms of the word stark and bleak, maybe the best example of that vibe ever from Kendrick, that's Mother I Sober. I listened to this song even less than Anti-Diaries, to be honest, because it's so emotionally taxing and so emotionally overwhelming, just considering the weight of what Kendrick is talking about, you know, with things like his mother's trauma and abuse and passed down generational trauma and him trying to break free from that, which is the thesis of the entire album, but this is where it's really distilled. It's not fun to listen to. It's not a fun listen, but it's the most important listen of the album. Mama is mainly this high up on the list. It might be surprising to see it this high on the list because it is a low-key, relatively quote-unquote deep cut, but the first verse, the writing on the first verse from a pure technical level might be Kendrick's best. It's certainly maybe my favorite. All three verses are so different from one another. You know, the intricate rhyme scheme of the first verse, the second verse where he tells himself, I know this, I know this, I know that, but it turns out I don't know shit, and then him returning home to the quote-unquote motherland in the third verse it feels like this song takes you on an album's worth of a journey. Lust, ridiculous song. I sound like a broken record, but it is. A lot of reverse samples on Damn and throughout Kendrick's discography as well. The first time I heard it, my mind immediately went to Andre 3000's Vibrate from The Love Below, and it really does give me that vibe. But hearing it now, post Mr. Morale, where he fully admits to infidelity, and a song like Lust is here, it puts it into a whole new light. But he links the word lust not just to what you might think it would be, but wider societal context as well. And I think that's really hard to do, and he does that all over Damn, but he does it especially well on Lust. He also does that on Feel, my favorite song from Damn. This song makes me want to cry every time I hear it. And I laugh, but it is bleak, the whole nobody's praying for me, who's praying for me, this scatterbrained, like genuinely vulnerable moment on the album where he feels that no one has his back, and he just lets off and he goes off on a kind of, it sounds like a tangent, but it's not, this list of, I feel like I'm fighting this and that and this and that, and I'm just losing it, I'm going crazy. And I personally just love it when artists like take such a simple word or idea, in this case the word feel, and just turn it into something fucking mind-bending. Wesley's Theory, the most iconic intro maybe to a song ever in my opinion, and just the collection of talent on this song, Flying Lotus, Thundercat, George Clinton, Dr. Dre even, it's ridiculous. But similarly to United in Grief, how it sets up every single theme of the album is amazing. Kendrick playing these two distinct characters where he pivots once Dr. Dre tells him about fame and fortune and how to keep it, and turning into the personified Uncle Sam figure is just is genius, amazing level. And like now when I think of the fact that I'm roughly the same age Kendrick Lamar was when he wrote this, I could never in a million years even begin to think of shit like this. This song is on here, this song is this high up because it's the combination of the musicality of it, but the conceptual lyrical shit as well. Like both are 10 out of 10. Into the top 3, number 3 is You. Not a song you play often, but when you do, it's the only thing you pay attention to because it's brutal. It still remains brutal as well. And this is why, like, a song like Meet the Grahams, it's shocking, but I knew Kendrick has something like that in him because I heard him do it to himself on You. Like, if you really break You down, You might be even more brutal than a song like Meet the Grahams, and the target is Kendrick himself. And that's why in 2024 a lot of those supposed disses towards Kendrick just kind of bounce off him, because it's like, this is the guy who wrote the most brutal diss track of his career against himself. Do you know what I mean? Like he says on DNA, you're not sick enough to put it on yourself. And I think that line is a reference to this specific song because it's brutal. He blames himself for not being there when old friends had died, not being a good role model to his friends and to his family, having drinking problems. Like, if you laid it out and you said that he also said these things on Meet the Grahams, it would be like, oh, that makes sense. But this is a real scathing analysis of himself, and so self-critical, and to the point, he even mentions having thoughts of self-harm. So expressive. And I know now, on TikTok the scream has become a meme, which I think is so bizarre, but if it exposes more people to this song, then I'm fine with it. But one of the most brutal songs Kendrick has ever made, Money Trees with J-Rock. But this is a song, the definition of standing the test of time, because it's like the safest Aux song, but everyone loves it. Like, Kendrick Lamar purists and stans love this song. I include myself in that as well. And casual Kendrick fans who may have only heard a handful of songs also love this song. And it has that function of like, it sounds like good times and good vibes and summer, but lyrically it's super dense still, even though Kendrick's not doing like the most, vocal acrobatics or lyrical acrobatics, but thematically it's really important to the story of Good Kid, Mad City, this chase for celebrity and money. I find it amazing that a almost 7-minute song from 12 years ago remains one of Kendrick Lamar's most relevant, most well-known, most commercially successful songs ever. Yeah, Money Trees is a certified classic. And number 1, which I think is number 1 for a lot of people, it's Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. It's a basic pick, I know, everyone says this, but there's a reason. Obviously this is 2 songs split into 2, Sing About Me and I'm Dying of Thirst, and I think most people pick this song particularly for the first 2/3 of the song, which is Sing About Me, 3-story tale of Kendrick telling tragic stories about people he knows in the hood who have lost their lives and how he intersects with their lives as well. There's this skit before where it leads into Sing About Me, where one of the guys in Kendrick's car loses his brother, who's supposedly called Dave, and then it goes into that first verse of Sing About Me where he describes a person who's hell-bent on getting revenge. And I know I keep saying it, but it's the detail that Kendrick writes in that makes it special. One particular bar in the second verse where he's describing a woman who's fallen into maybe a line of sex work that she didn't want to do. He tips me with ease, my titties bounce on the cadence of his tinkling keys. It sounds silly, I know, but Kendrick says it with such a straight face. Out of context, that's a comedic line, and in the context of the song, it's just beautiful writing. That's all I can call it, is beautiful writing. And there's moments like that throughout the album, throughout the song, sorry. On the third verse where he makes a reference to a Nas song where he says, maybe I'm a dreamer and sleep is this cousin of death, really stuck in a schema, wondering when I'm at rest. But of course, this song is very bleak. It's really focused on mortality and death, which, you know, pops up in a lot of Kendrick Lamar's music, but it's particularly pertinent on Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. It's a song about unfulfilled potential, revenge, abuse, legacy, so many things as well. This has been my favorite Kendrick Lamar song since I first heard Good Kid, Mad City, and there are moments when I think it might change, but this is the one for me. It's the one that I think best displays Kendrick Lamar's unique songwriting and storytelling abilities like no one else can or does or has done, in my opinion. And for that reason, Sing About Me has to be number one. That is my list. I know you're gonna think that it's fucking wrong and how the fuck isn't Bitch I'm in the Club number one. So please tell me in the comments what's your favorite, what's your top 5. I'm also in the process of writing a longer video, so watch out for that. But for now, I'll see you in a bit.